Hello, everyone. A very good afternoon to all of you. I'm Anand, welcoming you all on behalf of Solar Quarter and First View Group to our today's webinar on Digital Roundtable of CNI project leaders of Eastern and Southern Africa. Thank you all the attendees for joining us today. Hope you had a great time networking with your peers in our exhibition tables. We'll have those networking sessions again after the panel discussion. Now, I take the pleasure to thank our sponsors, Jinko Solar, for extending their immense support to organize this event. Now, we'll be playing our sponsor videos.
Jinko Solar creates workplace where our people thrive and success. We're here to talk about them, the people who bring our technology and products to empower the world in the cleanest and most sustainable way. The people in our labs, our factories, our offices, our warehouse. We are committed to create a space where they're respected, engaged, encouraged, and fulfilled. And this is how we're making this happen. As the world's first solar company joining RE100, we're committed to be 100% powered by the renewables by the year 2025. We plan to reach this goal across global managed portfolio. To do that, we locate newly built factories in renewable-rich regions. We install all available factory rooftops with solar. We significantly increase in supine and off-site renewable electricity sources. We optimize energy efficiency across our operations. We are proud of the impact we have. Through our development activities across the world, we're supporting local economy and employment. We are further maximizing our social impact through community donation and educational partnership. We recognize the importance of managing ESG risks and opportunities and have created a culture that enables everyone at Jinko Solar to act lawfully and responsibly. Our structure is well established and ensures we always operate in the best interest of our stakeholders. We promote transparency, ongoing dialogue, and compliance, and have embedded a governance framework that enhances corporate performance. It enables us to have a consistently positive impact on environment and communities. We are proud of what we are making. Change today's energy portfolio and take the responsibility of the future.
This is a time where energy systems around the world are undergoing fundamental changes. The balance between fossil fuel and renewable energy sources is shifting. Yet 850 million people are still living without access to electricity. In this changing world, society and business share one crucial challenge. How can we meet the rising demand for energy and at the same time protect the climate? Ensuring access to clean and sustainable energy for all in an economically sensible way. To address the challenge, innovation and technological development play a fundamental role in building an effective solution, and Jinko Solar is one of the solution providers. Jinko Solar is one of the world's leading companies in the clean energy sector, pioneering the vertical integration business model along the entire value chain from the wafer, cell to solar module. With its 12 factories, 25,000 employees in more than 35 countries, Jinko Solar is well positioned to serve the requirements of a heterogeneous customer base. Jinko Solar is the first solar company to deliver more than 70 gigawatt panels to over 3,000 customers in 160 countries, accounting for 1/10 of solar electricity generated worldwide, making the company hugely relevant for assuring future sustainable energy supplies. Unmatched large and diverse global customer base helps to smooth fluctuations in demand, which in turn helps the company maintain a high level of capacity utilization and profitability. With a highly competent and dedicated R&D team, Jinko Solar has broken 15 world records in cell and module efficiency, deployed 2,387 technology patents home and abroad. For advanced cell technology, the company's 24.9% efficiency N-type cell continues to progress in the pipeline. Jinko Solar is the capacity leader with 33 gigawatt wafers, 27 gigawatt cells, and 37 gigawatt modules by end of 2021. Moreover, globally distributed capacity is the foundation for Jinko Solar's manufacturing excellence. Flexibility to meet the needs of diverse customers, accurate delivery, unmatched customer service, ability to quickly ramp up and maintain high yield make manufacturing excellence one of the core strengths for Jinko Solar. Jinko Solar is leading the world towards clean energy transition and driving continuous innovations in PV technology to keep building your trust in solar.
Now, let's begin with our sponsor presentation by Mr. Titus Koech, Technical Service Manager, Sub-Saharan Africa, Jinko Solar. I request Titus sir to please share his screen.
Hello, Anand, and I think you can now see my screen. So,
yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. Here from Jinko Solar, Titus Koech, as mentioned, the Technical Service Manager for the Sub-Saharan Africa region. So this afternoon, I want to share my insights, basically for close to 15 minutes about N-type TOPCon modules, and also how basically this is going to be a better investment for C&I solar in Sub-Saharan Africa. And to start up my discussion is that just to give an highlight with regards to the structure of my presentation, that is my short presentation, is that I'm going to briefly, for the benefit of everyone, make a brief introduction of Jinko Solar, and then we'll briefly talk about the developments in N-type technologies for the past few years, Then I'll also give some brief highlights of our Tanzania modules, and basically look into some case studies with reference to C&I projects in not only in Africa but also across the world, so that we see in that how basically we're benefiting, that is technically and also commercially. And I'll now go straight to the start of my presentation to talk about Jinko Solar. And I will say that Jinko Solar is basically a renowned module manufacturer. It's more of, when you talk about solar PV, is that the first household name that comes into place is basically Jinko Solar. The reason why is we've been a leading module manufacturer, or rather in terms of shipments for the longest period of time. There is a 4-year period. That is the longest that module manufacturers had to hold the first position. And currently is that we also pride ourselves as the first manufacturer to actually be able to ship more than 100 gigawatts of PV modules. That is based on the China export data that is as of end of Q1 of 2022. And basically is that we still hold our global market share of 14.3%, which is also translated the same to also sub-Saharan Africa, in that the trend in market share is also the same. And currently is that we to be able to make sure that we satisfy the market demand, there is a bit of surge in the market demand for PV modules, is that we managed to also ramp our capacities, that is the production capacities for solar PV modules and also cells and also wafers. And currently for this year is that our projected annual capacity is 45 gigawatts. Then as industry leader, also we pride ourselves in our R&D investment, in that we spend actually close to 5% of our annual revenue in our R&D, and we managed to bank into close to more than 18 world records, which includes efficient records. And in terms of shipments, also for there is new developments in also Q1 of 2022, is that we've actually managed to ship more than 8 gigawatts of PV modules. That is as of Q1 of this year, and basically we are now back to number one based on the latest shipment data that was actually announced 2 weeks ago. And as Jinko is that our key business, or rather our core business, is basically manufacturing of solar PV modules. That it is where we are well known of, and also we for the PV module manufacturing is that we also do production of our wafers and also the cells. And also apart from that is that we've also prided ourselves to be among the first PV module manufacturers to offer PV plus solutions. That is solar PV plus solutions, including solar pumping solutions, that is for submersible and also surface water pumping applications, and then also energy storage, which we've really gained traction for the last 2 years. Energy storage for residential, utility scale, and also commercial and industrial applications. So these are the range of all the solutions that we currently do offer. Then in addition, also part of the PV modules is that we also do that is building integrated PV, that is BAPV, and also building applied PV as well, that we managed to supply some of the projects, especially in the Middle East region. Then just to expand further is that as part of our core business, I said that our core business is solar PV modules, and in our portfolio for solar modules, especially for this year, is that we have our portfolio only inclusive of only monocrystalline modules, since we've really discontinued polycrystalline modules, and now we have two sets of basically you can say two sets of products, where we have 163 millimeters, that is based on the wafer size, and also we have 182 millimeters. That is how we basically do categorize our PV modules based on the wafer, that is the wafer size. And also we also have another set of categories based on the series, where we have the Tiger series, we have the Tiger Pro series, and now the new modules that we're going to talk about today, that is the Tiger Neo series. And apart from that is that we also have another subcategorization, either having N-type and also P-type modules. So we are still going to look into what are the difference and what are the market developments. Basically, the current transition is from P-type to N-type. And from this portfolio is that you can actually see that we have modules for at least a 375 watt peak, all the way to 610 watt peak. That is basically for this year. And the reason why we have this range of PV modules is we want to satisfy different client requirements based on either looking at the efficiency, looking at the warranties, looking at the size of the PV modules. So we have modules from less than 2 meters in length to modules up to 2.4 meters in length. That is basically for different applications. That is residential, commercial, and industrial, and also for utility scale applications as well. And then just to highlight is that our mainstream, basically our mainstream PV module for this year has been basically the Tiger Pro modules, where we've basically had some very huge demand, especially in the African region, that is for the 72 cell Tiger Pro modules between 540 to 550s. But also is that we now launched the new modules, that is the Tiger Neo modules, where we are having slightly a better advantage in efficiency and also some other advantages that we are going to talk about today. Then, as I said, is that our subject today is basically on N-type, and we want to know on what advantages comes to N-type, and what is the current market trend, not only for this year but also for next year and the next coming years. Is it that the whole market is going to move to N-type? So to be able to make us understand more about N-type, is that we want to base our discussion on the new Tiger Neo modules. So for the Tiger modules, is that these are purely N-type modules. And they're actually based on the 182 millimeter wafer sizes. That is actually very common in the market currently. That is, we usually call them M10. Then ideally, the technology behind this is that we've now moved from the previous, that is monopack technology, to now the N-type TOPCon technology. That is basically eternal oxide phosphated contacts. That is now the new technology that is for the N-type. And we also pride ourselves that if you saw from the videos, is that the efficiency for N-type TOPCon modules is actually the highest currently, where we're having module efficiencies of even up to more than 22%. Then we'll also look into the degradation values and also the improvement in warranties with the new Tiger Neo modules. Then as a manufacturer is that, as I said, is that in our portfolio strategy, we try to have modules for different applications. Like I can see in this case is that we have the small modules, basically 1.7 meters for 1.7 meters for basically residential applications. Then we also have a slightly bigger, that is 60 cell modules, that is 1.9 meters. Basically, these are mainly for residential applications. And what I can also say is that these are also suitable for basically complex commercial and industrial scale solutions, where you have complex roofs and you want to have different orientations, or basically you have very complex rooftops. And also the other advantage of these two 54 cell and 60 cell modules is basically very high power density, that is per 40-foot containers of more than 380 kilowatt peak in a 40-foot container. Then we also have 72 cell version that is now 560s to basically 570s, that is monofacial and also bifacial for ground mounted projects. Then we have the 78 cell version bifacial and monofacial basically for utility scale applications. And if you look at this clearly, is that the power ranges for these modules, in as much as similar size with the Tiger Pro module, it slightly has that is high power with the 2.2 by 1.1 module. You can see you can have 560 instead of 540. So the difference is close to 20 watts. So basically, these are a result of basically the high efficiency of the N-type TOPCon modules. So basically, we get to realize high efficiency and basically high power for these modules. And now is that now that we've looked into the summary of the Tiger Neo N-type modules, is that we also want to look into what are the developments in that is the N-type technologies. So what I can say is that N-type is not really, we cannot really say that it's a new, maybe new technology. It's only that we're having some advancements in technology, where we have now other technologies like the likes of TOPCon, we have the back contacts, and also we have heterojunction. But previously, if you can look into what have been the developments, is that we add that is the P-type modules until where we also add polycrystalline, we add monocrystalline, then we add monopack modules, that is monocrystalline with pack technology. Then from that is that we started seeing in the last 2 years, we started seeing transitions to N-type when it was started making some bit of commercial viability. And with this is that we basically add part of the technology, that is part of the technology for N-type. Then basically what we're seeing from this year, or rather let me say from last year to this year, is having these two main technologies, that is TopCon and basically heterojunction. And what you're also seeing that what is still in the research and development is that we're also seeing the combination between TopCon and back contacts, where we're only having the contacts or the PV modules on the rear side of the solar cells. And the next generation technologies for N-type is basically going to be TopCon plus back contacts, or rather heterojunction as well, and also back contacts. The difference between these two, that is TopCon and heterojunction, basically because of their structure. In that, what is common is that basically all applying, that is passivation of the solar wafers, that is passivation of the solar wafers, basically to prevent recombination of charge carriers. And you can see now this is the reason for basically the high efficiency of this N-type modules. Then for TopCon is that the passivation is done using a tunneling layer, or rather a tunneling oxide or silicon oxide. Then when it comes to heterojunction, it's certainly different, because we are combining the advantages of basically polycrystalline silicon, that is polysilicon and amorphous silicon. So that is basically for heterojunction, in that it's combining the two advantages. The passivation is actually done using amorphous silicon layers, whereas for TopCon, we're using a tunneling layer. So basically the manufacturing process are a bit different. Then the main push for jump to, or rather transition from P-type based modules to N-type based modules is the main push is basically the efficiency limits. In that from this research you can see is that basically we are seeing that with regards to the packed solar cell efficiency, or rather monopack solar cell efficiency, is that we are almost getting the limit of close to 24.8%, 24.5%. Whereas for heterojunction, we can see that there is still room, that is to improve the cell efficiency to around 27.5%. And for TopCon solar cell efficiency limit, we are seeing the highest, that is close to 28.7% efficiencies. So basically, that is why now the industry is trying to move from, with this limitation of the monopack or other pack solar cell efficiency, there is now need to move to other technologies, that other N-type technologies, that is either heterojunction or also TopCon. So you can see the representation that the efficiency limit for pack is 24.5%, then for heterojunction around 27.5%, then for TopCon 28.7%. That is basically the push for the transition between P-type to N-type. Then, as you can see, is that, as I said in the start of my presentation, is that for the past few years, we've seen efficiency records, and we've actually managed to break a number of efficiency records, that is either from the module level, also up to the cell level. And you can see the different efficiency records, that is from this is the report from the Young News. And you can see this was released in 2021, where we saw a jump from 23.81 cell efficiency to 24% to 24.5%, 24.58, until the latest one that was last year, second half, start of second half, that was 25.25%. That is the efficiency record. And you can see these different publications that start of last year, we're looking at 24.9%, that is the efficiency record that is published by Jinko Solar. Then we also saw efficiency record of 25.5% that was also published by Jinko Solar, and also in October last year, around 25.4%, and also this year, that is start of Q2, we were actually looking at 25.7%. So all this is that the reason for all this record is basically because of the N-type and also TopCon solar cells. That is with the introduction of this. That's why basically there is more push to move into N-type TopCon modules. Then now with N-type is that I want to just summarize on why N-type is that what advantages is basically what advantages is coming to benefits to investors, to APCs, and also to different developers. And I want to summarize this using basically the key aspects or rather specifications for the TEG and MODIs. The first one is that one thing that has been developing for the past few years is the temperature coefficient of solar PV modules. When we add polycrystalline modules, we add a temperature coefficient of around 0.4 to 0.42% per degree Celsius. That is minus, that is the temperature degradation. Then we add the monocrystalline modules. That is the standard monocrystalline modules where we add 0.38, that is minus 0.38% per degree Celsius. Then we add the introduction of monopack, but now full cell modules where we add minus 0.37% per degree Celsius. Then lastly is that we saw the introduction of the monopack modules with AFSAL, and now the improvement of temperature coefficients to minus 0.35% per degree Celsius. Then now is that this year with the introduction of the TOPCon modules, we've actually seen a sudden dip in temperature coefficient of up to that is minus 0.3% per degree Celsius. So this is basically a jump of close to 15% decrease in the temperature coefficient. And you can see that this is how the cell temperature and also the cell temperature compares at different cell temperature coefficients. Comparing now the standard monopack modules of monopack half-cell modules having a temperature coefficient of minus 0.35, and now the new titanium TOPCon modules with minus 0.30, you can see the difference in performance at different cell temperatures. So you can see it's something that is really significant and can be of benefit, especially with the basically the overall generation or yield from the solar plant. Then the other thing is that we're also looking at the current development in the current standard product warranty, not power warranty for solar PV modules for monofacial modules usually 25 years. But what we are seeing is that the new developments with the TEG-NEO N-type modules, or rather TOPCon modules, is that we are seeing that is warranties of up to 30 years now. And not only that, if you also look into the performance warranty for the first year, we are seeing a degradation of less than 1%, basically because of the N-type wafer. So basically there is not so much LID impact for the first year. And also for the subsequent years, instead of now 0.55 or 0.6%, we're now seeing a decrease of up to 0.4%. So that means that at the end of the 30 years, we are now guaranteeing close to a 7.4%. Then what we're also seeing is that for the interest is that for ground-mounted projects using bifacial modules, is that there is also an improvement in bifaciality factor. Instead of now the previous 70%, that is 70% or that is plus or minus 5, we are now looking at 80% plus or minus 5. That is now a temperature coefficient of up to, not bifaciality factor of up to 85%. Then what we've also seen is that there is also improvement in performance, basically at low light. So that means that with the new TOPCon modules, we now seeing longer performance. Basically, it can the modules start producing power with even low light early in the morning and also late in the afternoon. So basically, instead of let's say operating for close to 8 hours per day or 9 hours per day, we're seeing generation up to more than 30 to 1 hours in a day. So that means we can actually extended generation or rather longer days or rather longer performance days for the new TEG-NEO modules. Then to just sum up is that I also want to give some few case studies that is for commercial and industrial projects based on either simulations, financial modeling, and also based on basically pilot projects to be able to compare the performance of N-type and P-type, of which now to actually give us a justification for that. And the first one thing that I want to look into is basically, the main challenge with N-type modules for the past few years has been the premium, in that the price difference between N-type and P-type has been at least three US cents per watt. But this gap we've seen, the gap is really closing. I think now we are close to a premium price of 1 cent, that is close to 1 cent per watt. And I want to use this basically based on our modeling for a case project in that we're using our P-type modules, that is the Tiger Pro modules, basically baseline, and we are trying to check on three main factors. That is one on the BOS cost. They were also checking on the power generation and basically the profitability, that is using the IRR. And looking at this is that, as you can see that for the N-type modules is that we are seeing that we're having slightly high power compared to the P-type modules because of the, of course, better efficiency. And what we are saying is that basically from our calculations is that the savings on BOS cost is close to 0.5 to 0.65 US cents per watt peak. And also the generation difference is that we're actually seeing that comparing P-type to N-type will have better generation close to 3% more. That is basically because of the low LID, improved temperature coefficient, and also the high efficiencies. And then finally is that now to compute on the profitability is that we were making an assumption of premium price of 3.17 US cents per watt. And what we are saying that the profitability is actually still with this premium price for the N-type, we are still witnessing a profitability of 0.32 to 0.56%. That is comparing the N-type and the Tiger Pro P-type models. And to justify this data is that we also managed to basically conduct some field test data with some basically working with climate. This basically reports from Climate Technology Center and also UL reports to be able to verify our performance. And we are basing on two projects that is in our factories and comparing now N-type and comparing N-type and P-type, and we managed to see the generation difference of for the two projects. We can see it's more than 3%, and you can see also we were also comparing, that is having premium or rather having price difference between N-type and P-type at the same price. You can see the profitability or rather the IRR of increase of 0.47% with a premium of 1.587. We can see actually 0.16, and also the same for this other project. So basically, is that we are more of confident is that in as much as we might have some small premium for the N-type modules, is still more competitive in the overall cost of energy or rather profitability of the project. Then we've also done basically simulations in two main projects. That is 1.5 megawatt peak project in China, that is for the carport structure, to compare the yield, that is for both N-type and P-type. And you can see in that the generation difference for N-type and P-type can actually get up to close to 4.2%. And you can see that for different, because we did this in a period of 3 months, that you can actually see that all the months is that we can actually see that at every given time, the N-type generation is actually higher compared to that of the P-type. The same for this 1.5 megawatt project in this 1.5 megawatt peak project in also Australia. That you can see that the generation difference that is for N-type compared to the monopack modules is actually 5.5 higher. That is for summer months, and also 4.3% higher for winter months. Then we've also done basically a yield simulation that is using PVSys for a 10 megawatt peak project. You can see just to check on basically the LCA. And what you can see is that we were comparing a conventional that is monopack module of course power class of 590 watt peak, and also the Tega Neo modules of 605 watt peak. And what you can see is that basically you can see that there's huge LCA difference. That is huge LCA difference. You can see comparing the conventional P-type modules and also the N-type TOPCon modules. And also it's still the same also for the investment return, or rather the IRR. You can see the difference that is from 14.67% to now close to 15.12%. So you can see basically there's a bit of difference. And also we've done also other projects that is for 100 megawatt peak, and you can see that the gain, or rather the overall energy yield actually gets to having this P type as baseline. With comparing now the N type to commodities, we can actually see that there is a yield gain of basically more than 4% comparing N type compared to P type. So with all these factors, is that we are more of very confident that N type is basically going to take over, and also it also tallies with what the projections we are also getting from other institutions like the likes of ITRPV or there is other institutions also either in China or from US where they're making projections of technologies that are going to take over from the monopark models. That is that is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. So see you all in the panel discussion.
Thank you, sir, for this insightful presentation. So now it's time to begin with our much awaited panel discussion, in which our expert panelists will discuss the solar market outlook of Eastern and Southern Africa. And to discuss this, we have in the panel with us Mr. Kareem Megharbi, Founding Executive Director, EPDA. He's also the moderator for today's session. Mr. Sami Barothi, Business Development Manager, Sub-Saharan Africa, Jinko Solar. Mr. Titus Koech, Technical Service Manager, Sub-Saharan Africa, Jinko Solar. Mr. Prosper Mugali, Chairperson, Tanzania Renewable Energy Association. Mr. Douglas Baguma, Member of Board, Uganda Solar Energy Association. Mr. Nuno Gomez, Vice President, Angola Renewable Energy Association. Mr. Navpreet Singh, General Manager, Spenomatic Solar. Mr. Simon Graf, Head of Engineering, Arya Finergy. Mr. Alimayu Webshed, Manager, Power Operation, Africa Development Bank Group. So before handing over the session, I would like to make an announcement for all the attendees. Please share your question in the Q&A box. Our panelists will take those questions at the end of the discussion. Now, I welcome all the panelists on the screen and requesting Mr. Kareem to please lead the discussion. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Anand. But I don't see Mr. Alemayu, right? From ADB. So I don't think he joined us. Is that correct?
Sorry, sir?
I don't see Mr. Alemayu from the African Development Bank.
Yeah. So he joined. I think he's facing some technical issue. My team is in touch with him. As soon as he joins, I'll inform you. You can proceed with. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, well, good afternoon, good morning, everyone, and hello to all the panelists. I'm very glad to be with you today. If that's okay, I will introduce myself as the moderator, and then I can just call your name, and you can make a short introduction about yourself and your company, what you are doing. I see we have three people from Jinko, so I guess regarding the company, it will be similar, but still, if you can introduce yourself and so that we understand what position, what you are doing exactly in the group, that would be great. And for the others also, I see there are prestigious solar associations from Uganda, from other countries. So happy to understand what the association is doing and so on. So, well, a brief introduction about myself. So I'm Kareem Megharbi. I'm the founder and executive director of a company called EPDA, which is a project origination platform based in the UAE. I'm based in Dubai. So what is a project origination platform? It means that we are sourcing projects for our strategic investors. So we work with few investors, maybe 5, 6, but mostly we have 2 strategic partners. One which is a group called Technique Solaire, active in India, and another one called Total RN, active worldwide. But we do from time to time work with other investors. So what we do is we find solar and we identify solar and wind projects at different development stage. It could be greenfield, it could be under development, it could be in construction, or it could be in operation. We screen these projects, we review them, and we start, we try to identify the needs. Either it is development money or it is co-investment at ready to build, or at a later stage, or before co-development or co-investment, or both. And then we try to facilitate and negotiate, help the negotiation with our investors. So last year we closed 207 megawatt in 5 different countries. We worked in Cambodia, India, Kazakhstan, Italy, but also in West Africa. We closed the transaction, which actually has started the construction has just started in Burkina Faso, but I cannot say much because the investor has not yet, make the big communication, but it's financed by IFC and so on. So you will see that in the news, I guess, in a few days, once the communication will be done. But we do work also in West Africa. We have a project ongoing in Senegal. Also, I cannot say much, but with battery storage and EPC. And happy to look at different projects in Sub-Saharan Africa. Myself, I've been working in Sub-Saharan Africa for more than 10 years, very active in Nigeria, Mauritania, Benin, and so on. So this is, we like the continent. I believe that there is much to do, and not enough done today. Clearly, this fossil fuel is everywhere in Sub-Saharan Africa. There is not much done yet in renewable energy, and although you do have in different countries some successful projects, the size remains small, 10, 20 megawatt, etc. You have a big backlog of projects, large capacities in the queue, but the average development time still remains 7 years in Sub-Saharan Africa, and that's really a big issue. And I hope that we will know from you what you see in terms of experience in CNI, and also what are the production in CNI, and if we will be able to, I would say, avoid this lengthy development stage. So sorry, I talked a lot, but I won't talk more like that during the discussion, so don't worry. Okay, so just, I just call your name as I see it on my screen, okay? So Sami, if you can, introduce yourself and just say a few words about your company.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you for Solar Quarter, first for organizing this event. So my name's Sami Barodhi. I'm the Business Development Manager for Jinko Solar. I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya. So one of my main roles is to work closely with several development partners in the independent power producer, as independent power producers, and also working closely with EPCs and distributors within the sub-Saharan market. Thank you.
Great. Simon?
Yes, hi. Thank you, Karim. Yeah, my name is Simon Graaf. I'm the head of engineering for Aria Finergy. We are an award-winning EPC company working in East Africa, doing projects particularly in the agricultural and industrial spaces, which include solar PV, solar thermal, power stabilization services, and PV hybrid control. Thank you for having me.
Cool. Prosper?
Thank you, Karim. Hi, everyone. My name is Prosper Magali, Chairperson of Tanzania Renewable Energy Association, or TAREA. We are an umbrella association for renewable energy actors in Tanzania. Another hat that I have is we are also running an EPC company in Tanzania, supplying and installing standalone systems, including rooftop solar. Thank you.
Thank you. Nuno?
Hi, thank you, Karim. I'm the Director and Manager of Environmental and Renewable Energy Department or Business at Soapro. It's an Angolan company. And also here as Vice President of the Angolan Renewable Energy Association, which, as my predecessor was saying for Tanzania, represents the the market and the companies, and even lots of private engineers association in Angola. And we are just stepping in since 1 year ago to try to help government and private institutions to actually develop the business in Angola on renewable.
Okay, great. Titus, you're the next on my screen, but I think you're too famous now with your presentation and everything. So maybe I will go from to the next one now, because now everyone knows you now. So if you're okay with that.
Yeah, that's very okay.
Good. So Navpreet. We cannot hear you, Navpreet. Maybe you're. Okay, Douglas.
Oh, yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Douglas Baguma. Like a number of people here, I also wear two hats. One, I'm part of the Uganda Solar Energy Association, an umbrella body that represents very many solar companies in Uganda. The other hat is I'm also part of, as a managing director and founder of a company called Innovex, which has pioneered local manufacturing of solar components, specifically smart meters. So we locally manufacture and distribute smart meters for remote monitoring and control of solar systems in Uganda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's try again, Navpreet, if you can.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, now it's okay. We can hear you.
Hi, Karim and everyone. I'm Navpreet Singh. I am the general manager at Spenomatic Solar. We are an EPC company based out of Nairobi and doing business in the Eastern African space. We currently have an installed capacity of 40 megawatt of rooftop and ground mounted solar projects in the region. And we have sufficient bandwidth to cater to the C&I space. Thank you.
Where is it? Sorry, where is it this installed? The 40 megawatt?
Kenya and Uganda.
Wow! Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Not small achievement.
Yeah.
Okay. So well, thank you everyone for this introduction. So let's start with the discussion. Maybe we can start with, I'm quite excited, to be frank, to have different solar and renewable energy association in country which are actually quite dynamic, especially this in the last days, where the last months, where we saw different MOUs signed and different projects coming online, etc. And plus Uganda has a big history a long history of successful implementation of renewable energy and solar. I mean hydro also, but solar. So let's start, for example, with the Nuno, if that's okay. Tell us more about, because now let's focus on CNI, right? So tell us more about the CNI space. This says, for me, this, we have difficulties to develop ground-based systems, and Angola is a fantastic country with big resources, got space, you can connect to the grid in different places. So what is the business model here that would bring CNI to be a dynamic market more than like traditional solar, and why do you see this segment as something which will progress and grow in the future?
Well, while Angola is a country with lots of potential in solar, we are facing what I think is the traditional problems of the beginning of a new era on this kind of new renewable energies. I'm calling the new renewable because we use lots of hydro, and which is renewable, and actually more than 60% of our energy is at the moment from hydroelectric. What we see as the major difficulty actually in Angola for the moment is to try to create a private sector dynamic that with the government entities will allow the possible warranties for international financing systems to step in. So for the moment, there is quite a dynamic activity in within the state entities, which began at 370 megawatts installation projects within 7 centrals. And actually, two of them we visited last week and already almost ready. One with around 90 megawatts and the other one with 188 in the south. And these are part of a seven installation project, as I said, with a total of 370 mega, but they are state owned. So there was no private bidding. This is an EPC contracted directly from the state to a company. We understood it's American-based company together with an Angolan-Portuguese company doing the civil works. And actually, this is in discussion at the moment because, while this is a good thing that we are beginning with this kind of projects, we are seriously trying to convince everybody about the private model. And the major barrier for the moment is how to guarantee the payment of the energy the consumption by the only buyer, which is the state, uh, to the projects that will have 20-25 years to pay the financial source for its installation. So for the moment, we have lots of feasibility studies. We have lots of points identified both by governmental institutions and private sector. And it looks easy, but when the companies try to actually go to the market and arrange the financing system, the financing I don't know methods, then there is always this barrier about how are you going to pay for the money that is lent, and this is the huge discussion for the moment in Angola now with the private companies.
I see. Okay. And so, Prosper, can you give us your insight from Tanzania? So, well, just to let you know, I'm getting a lot of projects from Tanzania at different development stages, and so far investors are really prudent about about what's going on in terms of documentation and so on. And I see different development stages and so on. Do discussion on the PPA and so on. So what's your view here in the market and also on the CNI, because ultimately CNI you want to remove somehow the state from the picture somehow, because you want to have this direct agreement with the buyer, in which case in many cases is a private buyer, right? And so depending on the regulatory framework, and that's an issue, I don't know actually what's the status of the regulatory framework in Tanzania about having the possibility to sign a contract directly with a private off-taker. But depending on the regulatory framework, it may be easier, although the feedback from the market is that it's not easier. Yes, Nuno?
Yeah, I just want to add, because it's important for the discussion, that just a few months ago, a new law came out allowing the direct contractor of a private buyer. But our electricity price is highly subsidized by the government. So the amount of money you pay by kilowatt on the public grid is really much lower than any private can make.
What is it? Can you share the numbers?
It's about 14 kwanzas now. Hold on, I'm translating to.
Yeah, in dollar, yes.
Yeah. Sorry. Hold on, just to be precise. It's about 3 cents. Okay, and what we have been listening on PPAs that are being signed or even try to be signed by the government, by the entity that buys the energy for the grid, which is this project on the south, and other two projects privately owned that are just finishing their steps now. One that was proposed by Annie and the Angolan oil and gas company Sonangol in the south in the desert. It's a 25 times 2 megawatt project. Now finishing the implementation. They're not building yet, so they're finishing the documentation process. And another one by Total with the oil and gas company, government company also. And what is being said about is about 7 to 10 cents
Yes,
kilowatt,
yes, I'm not surprised. Exactly, it's
which is okay for Angola in terms of absolute values, but comparing with the 3 cents that are subsidized on the national grid, it's a problem in terms of concurrency.
Okay, so I mean, so Prosper, you have the background, right? with the picture of
just
Angola,
a quick
so-
follow-up. Can I ask a question? What's the grid stability there in Angola? Is it very good quality power, or is it 3 cents but bad power?
Well, I will say internationally speaking, it's not stable. So we are since 7 years ago up to the moment we are actually upgrading the grids to a more stable model. We had three different grids, north, center, and south. Now the north and center are together and are getting stable, but all the east, southeast are not connected to the grid, and the south it's not connected, but it's now under a bidding operation for the connection of the center to the south system. But we were visiting, for example, these new centrals, the first ones that are being built in the south, in Benguela, which is a city in the south, the second biggest city in Angola. And the investors and the builders were actually telling us that they are afraid that when connecting to the grid, it won't be working okay, because probably for the most of the time the grid quality will not enable the 90 megawatt and the 188 megawatt systems to get into the grid. So this is a problem, the stability of the general grid. And this is on the second biggest city. So when you're going further inland and further to the east or southeast and east, which are the zones not connected to the grid, that's also a problem. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. It's very, very interesting. So Prosper, yes, this is yours. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Karim. So in Tanzania, actually, the electricity sector was opened to private sector in 2008 with the new Electricity Act, which invited the private sector into the generation and distribution of electricity. So we already have the regulatory framework on the ground implemented since 2008. And already there are a number of PPAs and projects which are already generating and feeding electricity to the grid. So together with projects which are generating and supplying electricity to the national grid, there are also small projects, small scale projects, which are mini grids, and we have regulations for that. So these are renewable energy mini grids which are generating and distributing electricity at village level. And we have cost-reflective tariffs for that space. So I can say for Tanzania, the doors are quite open for private sector to engage into the electricity sector to generate and distribute electricity. Only for the past 4 years, there was the signing of new PPAs was stuck a bit due to the government now wanting to negotiate the tariffs. Previously, the tariffs were a bit higher, the grid tariffs. So the government is really pushing now for low tariffs, now standing at about 7 US cents, which are not that attractive to private sector. So we are still trying to speak and negotiate with the government to a bit increase the tariffs. On the CNI space, that is an emerging market in Tanzania. We've already seen a few projects coming into the, especially in small industries, some in the residential market, and of recent, we have seen the international fuel or petrol stations installing hybrids or CNI projects into the different fuel stations. So already Total Energies has installed some CNI projects, and we are also looking forward to Puma Energy and Oryx as well to install CNI or hybrid systems into their all petrol stations in Tanzania. We also see a number of businesses like hospitals and financial institutions considering CNI as well. So currently, the business model is actually the EPC model, where the clients are investing or paying for all the capital costs. But we think if we are able to have scale in the market, to be able to scale in the market, we really need to push for energy payment or lease models to also come into the market. So the potential is quite huge in Tanzania, and it's really encouraging to see already we have a few number of CNI projects which are actually building the ground for the market. Thank you, Karim.
Thank you, Prosper. Maybe a few questions. One is, what's the current capacity installed in solar and already selling electricity, either ground-based or CNI? What is it today?
So typical system sizes range from as small as 5 kilowatts to as high as 100 kilowatts. So that is the range of the sizes of the systems we have already seen in the market. Most of them are ranging between 10 kilowatts to 50 kilowatts. But there are a few which have gone up to 100 kilowatts. Yes.
And the ground-based, the large ones today, do you have how many projects have already reached connection, commercial operation?
For the ground base, you mean some
like 10 megawatt, 20 megawatt, etc.
Yes. So in that space, we have just one project, which is a 5 megawatt solar project, supplying power to an independent grid in the shores of Lake Tanganyika, Kigoma region. But the national utility is now under negotiations for a 150 megawatt solar project, which will be implemented by the sector. So it was actually a tender which companies applied, and now it is under evaluation. So maybe very soon we will have a 150 megawatt solar project.
Okay, great. And so, Douglas, what about Uganda? So, for me, my experience in Uganda, it started in with the KfW. You know, the FIT, the tender, you know, from KfW a long time ago. The first 10 megawatt plant with Access Power, and now I know that, you know, it has been very successful. Uganda is. You know, every developers, they are going in Uganda and asking to the government if they can implement 100, 500, 1 gigawatt of solar, etc. And the answer from the government is, well, we have enough power now. So I guess, and I don't know if it's right or not, I don't know. But yeah, we see, you know, here and there, 10 megawatt, etc., still being successful. But I guess another segment then in this case, CNI would be very interesting, because you do have, you know, clients and off-takers that would be interested to benefit from solar prices and so on. But I don't know what's the distribution price, etc. If we are in the same situation as Nuno described, then it's an issue, obviously, because if the grid price is low. But I don't know. So if you can tell us more about, you know, the environment in Uganda and also the CNI. You know, prospect.
Thank you, Karim. The biggest challenge of uptake of CNI in Uganda is actually one on the demand. There is not as much productive use, so not very many Ugandans are doing heavy industries. So this is one of the hugest challenges why there is not, you know, been a lot of traction in CNI solar. So what you will find is most solar projects that are taking off usually private. So it could be an institution such as a hospital, an industry that procures, you know, the solar system for their green and, you know, other uses. Of course, so far we have close to 5 huge installations, which come to close to 200 megawatts installed so far, solar. But most of these have been development-led, either the government or a development project that is still trying to study, you know, to pilot these large-size CNI projects. So yes, the one in Soroti was a huge success, and majorly because there was an anchor customer. So that's one of the models that many of these CNI customers are taking on. So that was Soroti, then another one on an island in Lake Victoria, where there was an anchor customer who was, you know, producing oil from palm trees. So this has really been the model because productive users aren't that many. So most of the development projects now have actually pivoted to looking at, you know, increasing productive use cases. Very many projects, you know, are coming on board to look at, you know, use cases of how energy can, you know, be used in some of these rural areas in a productive way. Some of the applications have been, you know, in fishing communities where you put up a solar plant for icing to make ice. There have been anchor customers in agriculture. So Uganda is, you know, largely an agricultural country, employing more than 70% of our population. So there's, you know, now we're talking about a nexus of, you know, energy, food, and water. So this is where we see that the demand is, creating the need for CNI solar. And in terms of policy, the government has also been a bit slow because we actually don't have a feed-in tariff, for solar. There's been something that is being drafted, but it's still a bit slow. Unlike Tanzania, where you have private players, in Uganda you actually need to be licensed to sell electricity. So that is not yet on the private market.
You mean to go to CNI and sell electricity to another entity? You need to have this license as a distributor.
Yes. You need to be licensed by the ministry, to do any form of selling electricity. Yeah. So even for these large projects, so the projects that are coming up now are mostly mini grids, and definitely these very many sites have been identified and documented by the Ministry of Energy. But still, if anyone is interested in engaging, they still have to be licensed by the ministry to take on these sites.
Okay, great. So thank you for this overview. So Simon, you are from the private sector, right? So you're hearing the requests and the picture of the different countries. So on your side, I mean, how do you think you can what is required somehow to unlock these different situations, and how do you see that on the ground?
Yeah. So thanks, Karim. Yeah. No, I mean we are mostly in Kenya, but a little bit also Uganda and Tanzania. So we have a little bit of a bird's eye view to see what's happening in each of those countries, and we can see some big differences. I think immediate thought is that some policy certainty really makes a big difference. I think Kenya has done mostly pretty well in terms of its solar policies. Making sure that the technicians are licensed. EPRA does a decent job with that. They've been recently doing inspections at private plants to make sure they meet the standards. Ensuring that quality is maintained. I think training and making sure that the skills are there. My background, I started out in South Africa, about 4 years ago, and I was there 4 years ago, now into Kenya. And one big difference is to see the skills that are available. That the technical guys are able to deliver these solutions. So that way, that's way it can be supported. I think a challenge we see occasionally is on importation of solar goods. There's sometimes some confusion. The customs regulator here, will target certain products, let others through, and so we have some challenges bringing goods into the country. And so if that could be sorted out, that would certainly help. But I think in Kenya, definitely the awareness of solar as a value add in the CNI space is growing. I think most industrial clients, agricultural clients are looking at solar. I think we find nowadays very few companies that have never been approached or never thought about solar before. Everyone is looking at it. And I think now it's really taking off. I think the price of power is such that PV makes a lot of sense. I think the challenges we face, particularly in CNI, power stabilization or the stability of the power grid is a little bit of an issue. Sometimes the PV won't operate if for example the voltage is out of range, so that can be a challenge. And sometimes the infrastructure doesn't allow production of power. One has to do some upgrades. But I think in Kenya, it's growing. The market is looking good. We certainly see a lot of growth, and we've had a very good year in 2021, and looking for another good year in 2022. And so, I think it's booming, and all the players can get involved to really make it a successful industry.
Can you tell us more about what is a typical project look like, and especially with some numbers, and also in terms of price of electricity, what's today the price that you get from the grid, and what can you achieve with solar, and what's the kind of usual capacity that you're discussing, and the kind of technical solutions that you're providing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the sizes are increasing. We're seeing plenty of projects in the 500 kilowatt to 1 megawatt range. More and more of those. Those are typically rooftop PV. So that's often in the industrial space. That's the kind of sizes we're seeing. I think the agricultural sector as well is really looking at PV. I think there it's often a little bit smaller, maybe 150 up to 300, 400 kilowatts. At the moment, it's mostly grid tie, just directly grid tie PV. And the tariff that clients are paying can vary, depending on what rate they're on and where they are. But anything from 12 up to 16 cents, is being paid, and I think we can generally comfortably beat that. I think we're looking at paybacks typically in the ballpark of 3 to 4 years, on most sites. And I think the clients are becoming more and more aware. I think the market is becoming more mature and more educated about what's available, and starting to demand certain things. I think 4 or 5 years ago when I started in Kenya, people weren't that aware of what solar was and what it could do. But I think now when you meet most clients, they have a good background, they understand the products. And I think if anything, the challenge that we face is sometimes that some of the first movers in solar in Kenya, some of the guys that did some of the first projects didn't have a good experience, for whatever reason. Maybe the hardware wasn't great or the quality wasn't that good. So sometimes we fight a little bit against a bad impression that solar maybe doesn't work or it's unreliable. So we need to push and show that the new technology and with new skills that we are able to deliver a reliable solution, which is comfortably makes financial sense.
Well, thanks. Very, very interesting. And Nafrit, I mean, you also from the private sector, you have very good experience already and having delivered different systems. And so can you share with us your experience about CNI and the constraint that you see typical projects and how you see make more actually and grow more in this business?
I think Simon touched the points which I was about to refer to. That when we also started, the first project that we did was a sufficiently large project for 1.4 megawatt, and that was in 2019. So from that day till date, the customer awareness has gone to the full level, because they are also demanding now what they want, rather than us dictating the technology, the panels, all these P-type, N-type stories. They know even more than us sometimes, because Jinko does marketing, or Jinko, J, or whosoever does better marketing, not only targeted to us guys, but they are even doing the same targeting to the customers. So they can even ask me a 600 watt peak panel, and the Titus would not have even launched that panel in the market, but the customer is now demanding a 600 watt peak panel. So we are finding many interesting stories coming out in the market. The customer's appetite to go for larger size have increased here. We are doing a single larger project of 4 megawatt on a rooftop scale here. So which probably is, in considering the size of the country and the power that we generate, 4 megawatt, a single installation is quite a big project. So what we are seeing, because of the track record, what solar has delivered for the market, at least in Kenya and to a large extent also in Uganda, people are seriously wanting to go for solar in the C&I space. There is a follow the leader kind of practice that happens in these kind of markets. If let's say somebody has put up a solar plant in one of the tea estates, then the brother who is 50 kilometers away, a friend who is 100 kilometers away, once they see that project up and running and people making money out of it, the traction to it is very high. So, and this is a favorable conditions right now for the market, at least in Kenya and Uganda. Tanzania to an extent, because the tariffs are already pretty low. So we are not finding Tanzania at this juncture very lucrative. But yes, we are working on a couple of leads which we feel that will convert to orders, because what we are seeing is bigger clients generally don't want to do solar only for the sake of let's say savings. This is more of green power uh, and all the benefits associated with it.
But Nafrin
Yeah.
and Simon also, by the way, I mean, you this experience is great, but at the same time, is it an EPC model or is it a PPA? What do you see in Kenya mostly?
So we are a purebred EPC company. We work with, so there are both models which are what you say prevalent in the market. One is customers can use their own money or a bank finance project, or a lease or a power purchase agreement. So all options based on the client's let's say financial profile are available. The clients who are doing pretty well and are able to have generational wealth and are able to manage their cash flows better generally would want to go a direct purchase with their own money or with a bank funded project. But there are clients which are probably cash strapped, their operational cash flows is a little tight, and then they opt for power purchase agreements or lease agreements. What we have seen is the power tariffs we have seen as low as 5 cents here, which in fact for C&I space is quite remarkable, because the sizes, when we say 5 cents, we are talking about 1 to 3 megawatt kind of size. We are not talking about hundreds of megawatts or
So you mean the
of
5 cents is something? It's the PPA under
is the
the
PPA
lease.
provider is able to
Yes,
provide at 5 cents. I
yes.
don't know
Okay.
what Arya probably is selling it at, but
Mm.
uh, we are also shocked at seeing some of the prices which people are able to quote in the market.
Simon, do you see these prices also, the 5 cents in PPA?
Well, first let me start to just echo what Navpreet has said, is that we do see all the different financial models in the market. I'd say, funnily enough, in Kenya compared to South Africa, there's more of the direct sale. In South Africa, it was almost purely finance.
Purely, yes.
Everyone went with the financing option. But in Kenya, and exactly what Navpreet is saying, some companies are sitting on quite a lot of cash. For example, the flower industry did very well in 2021. So a lot of those guys are sitting with cash, and they're quite happy to spend it on things which will then, give them savings going forward. But all sorts of models: lease to own, lease, rent for 5 years, then potentially buy it out. PPAs. We're seeing it all. Yeah, look, I think the prices are just keep coming down. Every time we see a price, it's crazy. I don't know if we've seen 5 cents, but certainly in that ballpark.
Wow. Very low.
So definitely the prices are really competitive, and it's good for the clients.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's a busy market or a full market, and it just is beneficial for the people who are using, which that grows the industry, which is good for everybody.
Okay, and so to my friends from Jinko, so I don't know who can answer the question. So that's why I say Jinko. But so you decide who can answer. Look, well, Jinko is certainly a reference in the market, not only for its products, but also for its know-how and expertise in terms of development and even EPC and so on. You do the whole value chain. And I'm absolutely impressed, by the way, by the expertise of your team. You're clearly, very, very, very well known. So I'm just wondering, what's your model in Africa? Is it are you doing the whole service? Like, are you developing also yourself, or you're just focusing on modules? If you focus on modules, then can you tell us more about the different segments that you are approaching? Do you approach mostly agriculture, mostly industry? How do you organize? How are you organized actually to, are you segmenting actually the different markets, or are you approaching distributors, etc.? What's your What's your strategy there?
So thank you, Karim. I think I'll take it up, and thank you for the question. So just to, in a nutshell, to probably give a brief how we're operating in terms of our business model. Number one is that for the sub-Saharan market, in terms of our products, we having a number of products that we are pushing for this market, and as my previous colleagues presented. So number one, we are focusing on solar panels. Then secondly, we are focusing on energy storage solutions. We're also focusing on solar water pumping and street lighting. So these are among of the products that we are pushing for the sub-Saharan market. So in terms of the business model that we operating for the sub-Saharan market, number one, we work closely with the EPCs. Then we work closely with the IPPs and distributors. So for the sub-Saharan market, we have a representation in 3 regions. We have a representation in West Africa. Then we're also having a representation in East and the SADC region. So in all these areas, we're having distributors who are able to push these products to the market. Then in terms of product application, depending on the application of the product, we having both solar PV and ESS storage, either for the residential. We also having solutions for the commercial and industries. Then we also having solutions for utility scale projects. So as an OEM, we don't develop projects directly. So we only partner with different partners in terms of developing these projects. So what we do is that we partner with you as a technology partner in terms of providing the right technology for your project. Then we also partner with you in terms of offering you warranty for our products. Then we also support you in terms of training, so that we're able to train probably the project engineers involved in these projects. So these are some of the ways that we're able to, we in terms of the working model that we're using for the sub-Saharan market.
And regarding batteries, so storage, I mean, there's always the question of cost, right? And we've seen, so for example, in Kenya, I agree that now, I mean, I didn't know that this price of 5 cents, it's very competitive actually. And this is great news. And knowing that it's getting, further down, it's incredible. But the moment you put some batteries and storage in the game, it's a very different story. And so how do you see this market picking up? I mean, I'm not saying that there is no need of batteries, but is there a market for batteries actually? Who can buy that and why?
Yes, as you understand that lithium technology is now gaining traction globally. So there's a tendency, or there's a trend that we are projecting in terms of the adoption of lithium-ion technology in terms of different applications, all the way from the residential, commercial, and industries, and utility scale projects. So in the past, like for the past 3 years, the price for lithium-ion has actually been coming down. And we are hoping that with this, we are projecting that we are going to have more demand in terms of the requirement for lithium-ion. So one of the things that will actually drive growth for lithium-ion for the sub-Saharan market is, you understand that globally there has been a need to increase use of renewable energy. So what has been happening is that we've seen an increase in terms of coal plants being shut down globally. Take an example of South Africa. So that means that even the key producers of coal, we will have a decline in terms of the supply of this component globally. So these will tend to push the adoption of lithium ion globally, and probably this will push the demand to be high. So one of the other things that people also trying to use lithium ion in terms of in the industries is if you check the usage of lithium ion in terms of the power flow, you're able to get some clean power flow from lithium ion. Then you're able also to get a reliability in terms of the peak shaving, the peak loading, depending on the peak loads of different clients at different times of use. So with this, we are seeing that it is a trend that is going to carry on going forward.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so maybe let's go back to Angola with Nuno. Nuno, I'm not really happy. 10 years ago, I was discussing with the minister and the ministers and the utility 10 years ago, and already solar was the big thing. But 10 years after, solar is still the big thing, and that's this is I'm happy to see that there's 150 megawatts, but it's an EPC game, right? And so, as you mentioned, it's not really fostering this private investment that is much needed anyway, because given the large investment that is required. And I think it was, if I'm not correct, if I'm correct, it was Total Eren actually who signed this agreement on tens of megawatts recently in Angola, because I think these are my partners actually, and I saw them signing, the picture signing in Angola. This I don't remember exactly, 30, 40 something megawatt, or I don't remember the capacity. But so what's the what's your proposal to unlock that? Because ultimately you said that 60% is coming from hydro, right? So it means that 40% of your electricity it's coming from fossil fuel, right? And there is no reason why actually in in Angola you should use fossil fuel. It's over, it's you put solar, and that's already 40% can be drastically reduced, because given the radiation that you have, if you have the proper framework, as you mentioned, then it could really decrease rapidly, because you can implement a program of a gigawatt or something like that. So what's the story behind that, especially in terms of financing? Do you have the World Bank or IFC supporting that? This IFC scaling solar system, and so there are different institutional programs to help having the proper, I would say, regulatory and contractual framework, to help the country to provide the right guarantees and so on. But sometimes financially also it's difficult to provide the sovereign guarantees. So, if you can tell us more about that.
Okay. The three big projects that are now in Angola are the one I mentioned, which is a state-owned EPC program on 370 megawatts. The one you mentioned on Total Eren is the Kirenges one, which is as you said, a 40-45 times
like
2 projects in Lubango. And it's the second actually after the NE one that is ENI, sorry, that is 25 times 2, also close by, just almost 200 kilometers away from the Total Eren one on the same region. None of them are yet in construction. So the ENI got all the licensing, and it's getting into the construction phase. The Total Eren is still, as far as I know, in negotiations, and probably the last documents are being signed at the moment we speak. I was raising my hand a moment ago when we began talking about the prices.
Sorry, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I apologize. Yes.
And, no, I mean, we should listen to everybody on the panel, but I forgot about mentioning the subsidizing of the fuel, which is also a reason why it's not so competitive, the renewables for CNI, as it should be. So the price on fuel in Angola is 30 cents of a dollar a liter. I think it's one of the five cheapest in the world, and this is being subsidized. So we are actually fighting not only the grid source, which is cheap, but we are also fighting the thermal and generator source, which is also cheap because fuel is still very cheap in Angola. So actually, the government is paying, subsidizing these two prices, and this is making non-competitive for the private sector, even on CNI, to actually be a source of energy to the industry or any commercial or even the public service. Uh, I think it's a question of time. We have been developing the legal framework a lot for the past 7 years. I mean, you're saying you're talking this for 10 years. We are talking for more than that. In with Angolan, it's not. I think it's a strategic situation. While the country needs to also address our own uh, transition. Now this is the big buzzword, the energy transition. Angola is a oil and gas economy. So more than 90% of our taxes are coming from the oil and gas industry, and we are producing. And we are not refining. We are getting the refined products from elsewhere. I mean, we are refining just a little bit, and at the moment, three refineries are in sequence. The Cabinda in the north is beginning to be built. The Soyo also in the north is beginning to be built, and there's a big one in the south, close to this region. Actually, in this region, I was telling you about the solar new projects that will be built in some years. So there's a kind of not a fight, but there's something to be weighted in this energy transition that probably is affecting the strategy of the government looking at this sector. So if the fuel would cost $1 a liter, which is the price that is being important, at least now with this new crisis, it's probably more, then it should not be competitive with the new solar systems. If electricity would be considering the capex of the hydroelectrics that have been built on the past years in Angola, the price would be much more expensive, though it would be more competitive for new solar systems. So I think it's something that should be built in. There's opportunities for the solar. As you told, IFC is contributing to finance the build of the framework. There's the IRCEA, which is the Institute for the Regulatory Institute in Angola for Water and Energy, is doing a great work, but it takes time, and the private industry needs more speed. And this is the situation when we are almost putting the projects together. We always get to this point where we have no warranty that the prices will be kept or be paid for the next 20 years. Even you're using a mini grid approach, or if you're using a CNI simple approach, it's not easy for those who are lending you money for as an investor or as a promoter to get the guarantee, the warranties that the money is going to be paid for the next 20 years. And this, I think, is the key point. You're not getting financed because you don't have the warranty, not only the sovereign warranty, but even any warranty for a company, like, for example, a mining company that is going to need for a system, a 10 megawatt system or something like that. Then you need to get the money to buy it, to put it in place, because they just want to pay for what's their consumptions. But will they be paying for that for the next 20 years, or will be the government building a new line, a transport line going there, that perhaps in 5 years your business as a solar will not be effective because they're getting cheaper energy, and they will build new relationships with the official grid, and you're getting problems. So this is what the lenders actually address, and it's difficult to answer. And I think it's one of the points that is getting in the way of developing more solar systems or even any other renewable system in Angola for the moment. But we're getting there. I think in I don't know, in perhaps other 5 years, we're going to see the market developing. We know as the association that there are more than 40 projects being licensed now, most of them on mini grid, uh, most of them also smaller, two or three more than 10 megawatts, but most of them smaller than 1 megawatt, 2 megawatts. But this is the licensing process. Then when you get into the where the money is getting from and where you actually building and putting things in place, then that's the situation where most of the projects start.
Well, good luck. Nuno. Sorry.
No,
No, but I mean,
we're
you
getting there. We're
honestly,
getting there.
you
Need
no,
to be
but
patient.
yeah, you gave extremely detailed, and I mean, you addressed all the key issues definitely. I mean, this is and that we can actually see in different countries. Just maybe one remark is regarding the structuring of the PPA. Yeah, you do need to amortize the system for a certain period of time. I mean, you can't have a 5-year PPA to amortize your system. Doesn't mean any, doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, the market is really, innovative. Well, first there are, you can manage 15 years, I believe, uh, maybe even 10 years, and there are some, tricks in the documentation where, if grid is coming, if you want to do something else, then there are some, options there, and you
Yeah,
need to
legal
place.
legal stuff
Yeah,
that the lawyers will get rich to try to
yeah,
solve.
it's legal, but it's economic also. It's financial. It's
Yeah,
more
yeah,
it's
yeah.
more like, it's like how do you manage this? How to amortize and get this a specific price. You can have a higher price at the beginning, so you amortize more at the very beginning. So there are some ideas, and the market is very innovative in solar. So and I'm sure that you see them actually around, because Angola is definitely a place which is attractive for different developers. Although, given the situation that you mentioned regarding the subsidy on the fossil fuel, it's a very tough situation, and the government actually at a point in time has to ask themselves, if they want to, why would they are they subsidizing this energy if at the same time we can have solar, or I mean solar, which is, I would say, not close to the 3 cents, but most probably if you have a program which is big enough, because for 40 megawatt it's not a program, right? It's you sign it and then you get at 7, 8, 9 dollar cents per kilowatt hour. But if the government is serious and that is trying to implement a tender, like a gigawatt tender, and it's split into 100 megawatt, 100 megawatt, 100 megawatt, or something like that, then it's another story. You will get another type of price.
The thing is also our rate of the currency is changing a lot. Like 6 years ago was or 7 years ago was about 100 kwanzas for a dollar. We were rich. Last November it was about 800 kwanzas for a dollar, so 8 times less. Now it's about 450 kwanzas for a dollar, which is almost half of what was in November. That's why it's 3 cents. But if it gets higher again, it will get to 1 cent, 0.08, 0.07, whatever. And this is very, very, very unstable for the lenders to actually get in. We managed to look at the projects, and as the association, we are looking at different projects and getting promoters to make some presentations and to discuss these with between all, and it's very open. It's quite healthy, the market now, because we are not so many, and we are all facing the same kind of issues. So the two big Total RN and the ENI projects are mainly based on their potential to 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 get an equilibrium, a balance in their accountings on the taxes they pay, and possibly what the government is paying for the energy. But if you get a private promoter which has no history of taxes to pay to the government, then that's a problem. If the government doesn't pay, or if the buyer doesn't pay, how are you going to solve the situation? So we're talking generally about the 12, 13, 10 to 13 year period time for amortizing the investment, and usually PPAs on 20 years. Now, this is the general situation. Obviously, everybody's looking at the different prices and the different possibilities and making what we call some dancing with the numbers and trying to accommodate it. But at the end, when the lenders look at the contract and the government doesn't want to actually guarantee that they are going to pay this kind of price with all the PPA extras for the next whatever years, then that's where the problem begins. Now there's hope. We are having elections in August this year, and probably everybody is talking about that the fuel prices will must to get higher, but this will be after the elections for social reasons. So the World Bank, all the big international institutions are actually forcing the government to end up with this kind of subsidizing, because it's not healthy for the economy. So it's a question of time. We are a country with a recent history of just getting out of since 20 years ago we are in peace. So there's lots of social situations. There's some particularities in terms of the economy, very much based on the oil and gas industry, and this needs time. So what I'm actually telling you here is the view of a private, that is a group of privates in an association that are believing on the future, but it needs some time to actually change some of the things. It's not only on the renewable energies.
Sure.
Lots of areas on the market are still with this very state-owned investment situation, and in transition now, not only in the energy, but transition in the economy to a more privately driven situation. I think this will be the next future.
Okay, interesting. So, Douglas, what about Uganda? I mean, as far as I know, that there was a difficulty to provide any kind of sovereign. I mean, not difficulty actually, but the government was very reluctant recently to give any kind of sovereign guarantee to large scale projects, and I thought that it would maybe trigger some more projects into the C&I space. But you mentioned that there is no big industry. So do you think that the market is too small, or what's the potential for that, and what kind of system do you see in terms of size and potential? Because ultimately C&I, it's about, honestly, it's about volume. You need to have big volumes to deploy, and the more you deploy these volumes, then the price are coming down. You see Kenya, this already 5 cents. This is when you have 5 cents, this is really low. So it's really good. So how do you see that?
Yes, so I think for the government, it's an issue of priority. The fact is, right now in Uganda, we actually have much more installed capacity of electricity than what is consumed. We're producing close to 2,000 megawatts of electricity, but when you look at how much is actually consumed, it's averaging at around 1,000 megawatts. So the problem for the government at the moment is actually one more of distribution of this electricity. When the newest dam in Karuma, that's in northwestern Uganda, is complete, we'll actually have excess of electricity, but still we have only 20% of Ugandans accessing this electricity. So you see the problems is, one, getting this electricity which is generated where it's needed, and two, even where it is needed, there is not much economic activity. So that's why I think the current priority for the government is one of industrialization, trying to pull investors, to build industries, and that will increase the demand for the electricity which is already being generated. Why say nice solar is interesting, and there's very many mini grids that are kicking off, is because of the distribution. The distribution is very expensive. It's an expensive component of electricity production. So that's and this CNI solves this because the electricity is generated and distributed in probably within the same circumference, within the same location. So you find areas such as northeastern Uganda, the tip of Uganda, which don't have grid lines, you can put a solar plant and you'll have electricity there. There's a very nice, game reserve, very visited, with very many expensive lodges that would be very good anchor loads for a CNI project. So the government really is trying to prioritize at the moment industrialization, which will, then of course shoot up the demand for electricity. We had this scenario in the early 90s where we were producing far less than what we're generating. And the whole country was on a load shedding schedule. You only had electricity for about 6 hours, then it was off to another region of the country. So I think in the 90s, then the government embarked on, massive construction of dams, construction of gensets, which are supplying the grid. And we now, I think the problem has shifted to distribution, which, will take long to reach every Ugandan at the moment.
But despite this, overcapacity, you do have genset, around the country, providing electricity to some industries. Now, do you still have that, or because everyone, as you mentioned, 20% only of Ugandan they have electricity, which is, incredible number. And regarding industries, although you said that you should push for industrialization, I don't know if the existing industry, are they connected to the grid or are they still off grid?
So one, of course, if anyone is to put up an industry, the first consideration they have is their three-phase electricity. So definitely, no one will put up an industry where there's no electricity, and that is why for the CNI project, which has been successful in Soroti, the industry that is existing now is one of fruit, juice manufacturing from fruits. So this was a pilot that was funded. They wanted to have an anchor load of, this juice factory, which is being supplied by a very huge, solar installation, a 10 megawatt solar installation. So that has been a success.
Thanks. Thanks. And Prosper, in Tanzania, what about Tanzania? I mean, you do have industries, I guess, which are off grid, or which are, you do have genset and so on. So how do you see that as a potential? Because you mentioned that today it's between 50 kilovolt and 100 kilovolt, etc. But are you looking at also 5 megawatt CNI projects in the mining sector, or in different industries? Do you see that? Do you see that coming, and what's the potential market for that?
Thank you, Karim. So, industries in off-grid areas is one of the potential areas for renewable energy and solar in general. Not only we have huge potential for many of the tourism sites, which are largely off-grid. We have a good number of mining sites as well, and even in the agriculture sector as well. So those are some of the potential markets for solar, including the CNI space. So maybe one of the factors, or one of the challenging factors which I see, is I've been listening to Nuno from Angola, where fuel is largely subsidized. In Tanzania, electricity is only hugely subsidized. So for domestic customers, they actually pay, for those low consuming customers, they only pay 4 cents per kilowatt hour for electricity, which actually you can see is quite a huge challenge for development of CNI industry in the country.
Industry,
for industrial
for the industry, they pay how much? Because these are for lower consumers, but industrial, they pay how much, the electricity?
So industries, they pay between 15 to 20 US cents, which is still is quite low, which is still is quite low. So that is one of the challenging factor. Another one is actually the net metering application. We already have regulations for net metering, but the national utility company is hesitating to implement the regulations. So for a few of CNI projects which have been deployed, some do actually not sell into the grid. So they export nothing to the grid. Some which do export, they are not earning anything as of now. So as an association, we are now really pushing for the government and the national utility to implement the net metering regulations, where now we will have the feed-in tariffs, so that we can start trading electricity between CNI projects and the national utility. So, as you highlighted, there's a huge potential in different sectors: agriculture, tourism, and mining sector. But we really needed to address these two challenges: the price of electricity, as well as the net metering challenge.
It's very interesting. But you know, these 15 cents you get, Simon or Pravni, they will come now. Now they get 5 cents in Kenya. They came to Tanzania. They will provide no. Simon, why you don't go to Tanzania?
Yeah, no, Tanzania, the tariff is not bad, but the business environment can sometimes be a challenge there. I think with the new president, it's improving, but I have some history in Tanzania, and it was a challenge.
No, but Prosper is here. Prosper is here. He will provide the
we must talk to him. We must talk to Prosper.
The business environment.
Yes, I agree. Policy stability was a challenge, in particular for the past 4 or 5 years. But we now have the new administration, which is really addressing that, and we really look forward to stability and consistency in the policy arena. So the president is herself really working to welcome back investors, and in particular the private sector. Yeah, so things are really coming back to normal. So Simon, please come.
Prosper, we'll talk. I'll give you a call.
Okay. And then what's the situation now in terms of timing? You said that we should answer questions. Do you have questions from the audience?
Yes, sir, we do have questions from the audience. Like there are 5-6 questions. I would request all the panelists to once go through them and answer. I'll share one question which is for Mr. Nuno. I'll share it on the screen.
Yes, that's one of the major problems that is trying to be addressed by the government in the new PPA negotiations. And allegedly, with this ENI and Total, there are some rumors that parts could be paid in kwanzas, but indexed somehow partially to hard currency. But they will be paid in kwanzas, yes.
But indeed, the question is more related to the index. So what you say that it's not indexed yet, but there are rumors that maybe some negotiations are ongoing.
for partially indexed.
Partially.
Yes, not the all contracts will be, and this is obviously rumors. Not the all contracts will be as usually internationally indexed to our currency, euros or dollars. And for sure, the price is fixed in kwanzas. Part of the problem is trying to be solved with some kind of maths, indexing the flotation of the currency, and also the power of the kwanza, but it won't be signed in hard currency. That's the message from the government for the moment.
Okay.
Thank
And
you,
then
sir.
it's good if you can share on the screen the questions like that.
I think Jinko team can take this question. I'll just show it on the screen.
Let me take this question. That the prospects for producing solar panels in sub-Saharan Africa, I would say that I want to speak from Jinko experience in that I know most of the people know that for the past few years is that actually 4 years ago Jinko used to have a factory in South Africa, and we more of closed down because the competition in the market currently is basically based on price and of course the price of PV modules, and it didn't make so much of when you look at the cost of production locally is that it was more expensive, and that even selling locally would be more expensive. It was much cheaper to buy from basically to ship from China to either, let's say, Africa or to even to other continents as well. So it was basically because of basically looking at the cost of production, the support from governments, basically regulations, etc. So so we might it will all be based on policy, and we might see maybe some change in tune maybe in the next few years. And the current push that we are seeing, especially in South Africa, is the push for local content. So that is something that might also push most of the manufacturers, or rather top manufacturers, to set up factories in basically in Africa. But again, is that what makes it? It needs to make a bit of economic sense. In that, if you make $1 billion investment to set up a factory, there must be assurance of basically availability of business, not only for, let's say, South Africa, let's say round 5 or round 6. You should also be able to see that maybe round 7, round 8, round 9, basically you'll be able to get more business so that you can be able to amortize based on the investment. So it's something that is based on regulation and the availability of business. But for now, as Jinko, as a manufacturer, we're not really considering any having local factories for now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for answering the question. So with this, we have come to the end of this knowledge and insightful panel discussion and webinar. Thank you very much to all our esteemed panelists for this wonderful session, and a very special thanks to Mr. Karim for superbly managing the session. Thank you everyone for extending your time and support for the event. Thanks to our partners, Jinko Solar, for extending their support to organize this webinar. We promise to come back with more exciting topics very soon. The floor is now open for networking. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.